This upcoming Dallas Cowboys free agency period is going to be much more interesting than most fans even realize. You see, the Joneses, they're up against what we call a rock and a hard place. That hard place being the reality that they have to participate in some waters that they're not quite comfortable treading in. The Jones family are going to have to dive into free agency this year, and that's going to make for a very interesting offseason for Dallas Cowboys fans, because by the end of free agency, the earlier stages of free agency, fans will know one way or another exactly what this team is trying to do and the exact mentality that they're approaching building this roster with throughout the remainder of the offseason. We will know exactly where to place our hopes or where to throw them away. In addition to this, we have a list of some of the best available targets for the Dallas Cowboys in this upcoming free agency period as we take a look at some of the best available offensive and defensive options. Without further ado, let's jump into this, but first, a word from our sponsors. BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook. Be sure to check out BetUS and use promo code YouTube150 for a 150% first-time deposit bonus up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits. On BetUS, you can currently bet on the odds for the first overall pick in the NFL draft. As of right now, Cam Ward is the betting favorite, followed up by Travis Hunter. Be sure to check out all odds on BetUS, and again, please remember to bet responsibly. Now, let's get back into today's program. All right, so the first thing we're going to take a look at is exactly what the Cowboys will be working with going into the free agency period, or what they could be working with. At minimum, we know they're going to have roughly about $20 to $25 million in cap space, and that's just if they carry over the $25 million from last season into this offseason. All right, so at very minimum, if they don't use any of the built-in contract restructures, they'll have about $20 to $25 million in cap space. With that amount, they won't be able to fill the team next season, so they're going to have to make some sort of moves to open up more cap space for themselves, and those moves can be summed up in 5 simple steps. Dak Prescott, restructure a deal. It's built into the contract. That can open up roughly about $37 million in cap space. Trevon Diggs, same thing, although this one is a little bit more iffy as to whether or not the Cowboys will actually do it, especially considering that injury history of Trevon Diggs now and the fact that he may not even play next season. So I'm not sure if the Cowboys want to tag along with that contract much longer, so it'll be interesting to keep an eye out to see if they actually do something like this. But a contract restructure could save them about $5 million in cap space. CeeDee Lamb, again, restructured, built into that gaudy contract he already signed last offseason. $20 million in cap space saved. Terrence Steele, a conventional restructure, will also save about $9 million in cap space. And Micah Parsons, if he gets extended, will open up about $16 million in cap space. So, all right, so let's play the game. Let's say that the Joneses take an Adderall pill and they lock the hell in before the free agency period actually starts, and they do all of these moves, including signing Micah Parsons. That will open up roughly about $90 million in cap space at the $25 million it carries over from last season. And you have roughly about $115 million in cap space, roughly speaking, right? Now we can play the game that we all want to play. A lot of you guys were asking me about what the Cowboys could do in free agency, and it was important that we understood exactly how much money they would be going into that period with. Now, let's take a look at who the Cowboys' own free agents will be, so we know roughly about how much money they will end up spending on guys that they may or may not bring back if we identify, let's say, a couple of guys that we know the Cowboys may want to keep. So here's the list of free agents for the Dallas Cowboys in 2025. Now, this is where it's going to get a little bit interesting, ladies and gentlemen. If we take a look at this, there are some very, very valuable names on this list, including the likes of an Osa Odighizuwa, a Kevontae Turpin, a Brock Hoffman, who I think is a stud of an offensive lineman, especially once he gets under the tutelage of a Clayton Adams and a Connor Riley and some of these other guys. I think a guy like a Brock Hoffman could end up turning into an absolute freaking star, just because of mentality and want to, right? He wants to, and he fits the exact persona that Brian Schottenheimer wants in his team. So I think Brock Hoffman is going to be a pretty hefty candidate to be brought back, especially since Stephen Jones already came out and said they do want to re-sign Brock and Osa Odighizuwa for sure this offseason. So it's going to get kind of hairy as it pertains to free agency, but the reason I say it's going to be very interesting for Dallas Cowboys fans is because the Cowboys are going to be forced to be active because of this reality right here. The Cowboys are going to be forced to be active in free agency, and they're going to be forced to change over this roster to some degree. This is why it gets very, very good for Dallas Cowboys fans. If they keep the roster pretty much the same, then we know that they're pretty much building and handling this team, the season, pretty much the same as they always have. If they keep it the status quo, they bring most of these guys back and they don't leave themselves any money to make any type of moves in free agency or any trade splashes or anything like that. If they bring most of the same players back in a year where you have a brand new coaching staff, in a year where you have a brand new scheme coming in on damn near both sides of the ball, in a year where you're completely resetting what you're doing fundamentally from an actual schematic standpoint with the team. The only thing that they're keeping as far as continuity goes is Brian Schottenheimer knows what Dak likes, so they're probably going to keep most of the stuff that Dak likes to do in the offense that Brian Schottenheimer wants to run. However, the Cowboys have a big decision to make, and the first decisions that they make include whether or not they bring their own guys back. If they bring their own guys back, then we should expect more of the same from the Cowboys as far as how they're going to operate this offseason. If we start seeing a lot of these guys, especially some of the fan favorite names like a Jordan Lewis or any of these type of guys start leaving this team, DeMarcus Lawrence, Zach Martin, Brock Hoffman, you see Osa Odighizuwa especially, if you see Osa allowed to walk, then I think that you should definitely expect that this offseason is going to be getting very, very hectic for the Cowboys, because at that point, there's going to be a lot of changeover, and a lot of the guys on this roster are going to be different names. There's going to be a lot of different guys on this roster just based off of the necessity and needing to fill the roles of the types of players that those coaches need to run what they're trying to run with their schemes, with their concepts. So that's going to be very, very interesting to see right there. That's going to be the initial early signal to let Cowboys fans know, is this going to be a season to be excited about? Is this going to be an off season to be excited about? Now, if they start changing out a lot of these names, if they start changing out a lot of the guys that are going to be on the team, then here's some of the guys that we can possibly see. The 2025 Dallas Cowboys free agent wish list, defensive edition. The first name on this list is going to be Philadelphia Eagle Super Bowl champion defensive tackle Milton Williams. This is a very, very interesting name to me because Osa Odighizuwa is probably the preferred free agent defensive tackle the Cowboys will target via free agency, but we're going to exclude him for no other reason than to look at a different option. Milton Williams is someone Dallas should be familiar with, considering they were not only rumored to like him coming out of Louisiana Tech, but have played him twice a year for the past several years as a division rival with the Eagles. He, like Osa Odighizuwa, is one of the better three techniques on the open market and would be a perfect fit in Matt Eberflus's defense. His projected contract via PFF is roughly about 3 years, $21 million average. So you're looking at about $63 million total on that 3-year contract. So you would be paying him something similar to what you're paying Osa. And essentially what you're doing here is you're trading out Osa Odighizuwa for Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl champion Milton Williams, who showed up big in that game. And he showed up big in a lot of big games. And that would be a very, very interesting trading places type of move right there. I don't know if you'd rather keep Osa or bring in just a different guy to kind of inject a different type of mentality, a different type of player into the locker room. Again, I think Osa Odighizuwa is one of the few guys in that locker room that have their heads on straight. I think he's one of the few guys that really approaches the game the right way. So I don't know about that one. Defensive end, Josh Sweat. A lot of Philly love on this one. Other than Micah Parsons, who is expected to receive a big-time extension this offseason, the Dallas Cowboys' depth at DN leaves much to be desired. This could be the position they target with the 12th overall pick in the first round 2025 NFL draft, but free agency would also be a good option as well. Josh Sweat is someone who fits Matt Eberflus likes at the position, and signing him away from a division rival would be an added bonus. Sweat, Parsons, Marshawn Nealon, and Sam Williams would be a formidable pass rush in Dallas. His projected contract value with PFF is about 3 years with an $18 million per year average. So you're looking at about 3 years, $54 million. Honestly, I don't know if the Cowboys can spend that type of money on a defensive end of free agency. I feel like defensive end is one of those positions that rookies can come in and make a pretty good impact pretty quickly. And this is actually a draft class that is ripe with defensive linemen and defensive ends and stuff and pass rushers. So I don't know if I would go defensive end right here. Linebacker Nick Bolton. Now this one's very interesting to me because you're looking at about 4 years, $15 million average. If you need a guy that's going to help you in the run game, then getting a linebacker like a Nick Bolton, especially in the season where DeMarvion Overshown is going to be injured most of the year. Matt Eberflus loves linebackers. He's like a linebacker whisperer, so I can absolutely see Nick Bolton being a guy that's high on the Dallas Cowboys priority list. And I think that this, especially with Eric Kendricks possibly leaving the free agency, I think Nick Bolton is definitely one of those names that you want to watch right here. So keep an eye out for this particular name. Again, linebacker Nick Bolton is someone that honestly, to me, if you're going to go in free agency, if you're going to make an impact in free agency, getting one of these type of guys is probably the type of move that you need to make, because I think he would have an instant impact and he's going to upgrade your defense automatically. I like this one. I like this one a lot. Paulson Adebo, cornerback from the New Orleans Saints. Trevon Diggs is probably going to be on the shelf for a little bit, right? DaRon Bland is really the only known commodity cornerback that the Cowboys have on this roster currently. So bringing in a Paulson Adebo, and he has potential to be like a #1 corner type. Played very well for the New Orleans Saints. I think he would thrive with the Dallas Cowboys, especially with the coaches that we have here and what they're going to be asking him to do. And you could possibly end up getting him at a discounted rate. You know, Stephen Jones loves discounts because he is coming off of a broken femur in his 2024 season. So I think that he and DaRon Bland will be able to hold it down until Trevon Diggs gets healthy if the Cowboys decide to keep Trevon Diggs. I'm telling y'all, Diggs is somebody that I'm really looking at as far as like a big name Cowboys player in this current generation that may be one of the first dominoes to fall as it pertains to guys leaving the team. I'm just saying, bro. Next up on the list, we got Trevon Moehrig. Neither Malik Hooker or Donovan Wilson stood out in 2024, and either could possibly be a salary cap casualty. That would further deplete Dallas's depth at the safety position, creating another need to fill the offseason. Even if neither is a salary cap casualty, upgrading and solidifying the position via free agency for years to come isn't out of the question. Trevon Moehrig, who they liked coming out of TCU, would be a perfect fit in Matt Eberflus's defense. He's had 5 interceptions and 18 passes defense in the last 2 years alone. And you're looking at another guy that's looking at that $15 million per season range. So that's why I tell you guys, a lot of the players that the Cowboys would target, if they only leave themselves with about $20 to $30 million in cap space. And again, that's bringing back only about half of those guys on that list that we saw as far as Cowboys own free agents, which would leave them about $20 to $30 million in salary cap space. You're only looking at about 2 of these guys. You're looking at like maybe a Trevon Moehrig and a Paulson Adebo, or a Nick Bolton and a Moehrig, but you can get 2 impact signings. They won't be the biggest of names, but you can absolutely make at least about 2 impact signings this upcoming offseason. And that's about the extent of what I would expect the Cowboys to do in the offseason, if I'm being completely honest, as far as free agency goes. Now, could they make a trade or something, a surprise trade? Sure. But free agency wise, I'm only looking at maybe about 1 or 2 impact signings, and it's a guy like a Moehrig or a Nick Bolton or a Paulson Adebo. I really like a lot of this list. I think the last 3 guys on this list are probably some of the more likely guys to be targeted by the Cowboys. You could throw in like a Jair Alexander from the Green Bay Packers. He's just been released. You could throw in a Kendall Fuller from the Miami Dolphins. That may be someone the Cowboys go take a look at. He's the corner that just got released from the Dolphins. There's a couple of guys that you can really look at. I think the most important positions the Cowboys need to fill, though, on the defensive side via free agency, I would love to see them bring in a veteran linebacker to help run that linebacker core. A Nick Bolton, I think, would be an amazing get for the Cowboys in free agency. I think linebacker would be the position. Linebacker and defensive interior D-line, those would be the 2 positions that I really try to address in free agency. And if we're really getting greedy, get a corner as well. If we can get linebacker, corner, and defensive line, interior defensive line in free agency, then I think the Cowboys won. I think if the Cowboys can get those 3 positions locked down in free agency, then they won. And the reason I say those 3 positions is I feel like those 3 positions are best served with veterans. I think you don't want a rookie corner coming in. We saw the Kalen Carson experiment, how that went. You really don't want a rookie corner coming in and expecting him to be a Patrick Surtain Jr. Or Patrick Surtain II. You don't want a rookie linebacker. I feel more comfortable with having a veteran in that linebacking crew because linebackers are so crucial to stopping the run. So I want veterans that know what the hell they're doing back there. And interior D-line, you need grown men. So I think it's very important to get grown men and veterans back there as well, right? So if they can address those 3 positions via free agency, I think that is an absolute win. Now, I'm going to say this. I actually don't think the Cowboys need to do too much of free agency via the offensive side of the ball. Getting a backup quarterback, fine. If you can get a Justin Fields, that would be a very, very interesting pickup for a backup quarterback. Now, I wouldn't mind that at all, actually. And, worst case scenario, if that gets hurt, at least it'll be interesting seeing what a Justin Fields can do, right? At least that'll be an interesting watch. So that's a very, very interesting name to watch. Although his projected contract value is 1 year, $11 million. I would much rather spend $11 million signing a Moehrig or putting that towards signing a Nick Bolton type than putting it on a Justin Fields where you can sign Cooper Rush for $2 to $3 million. I would just rather do that. Running back J.K. Dobbins can't stay healthy. Not even going to talk about it. Get a running back in the draft. Stephon Diggs, not going to talk about it. Do not want another Diggs in Dallas. I'm not going to lie to you. Alaric Jackson, an offensive tackle. Neither Tyler Guyton or Terrence Steele had a very good season last year, and finding an upgrade for either left or right tackle could be a top priority for the Cowboys this offseason. Signing Alaric Jackson would actually kill two birds with one stone. He could immediately step in to be the new blind side, and Guyton could then replace Steele at right tackle, the position he played at Oklahoma, and ones he's probably more comfortable with. Steele then could become a post-June 1st salary cap casualty, saving the Cowboys $14 million. Ooh! Very interesting move right here. So you would essentially be replacing Terrence Steele with an Alaric Jackson, because Terrence Steele, he would save you $14 million in salary cap. You're paying Alaric Jackson about a $14.5 million per year contract based on PFF's contract values, projected contract values. So you're looking at about 4 years, $58 million total for this type of guy. Interesting. That is very, very interesting right there. I actually like that move right there. I think if you're going to try to get an offensive lineman, or if you're going to try to reconfigure your offensive line, I think getting a Will Hernandez or Alaric Jackson or a Trey Smith or, a veteran offensive line, that's the way to go. You don't want to try to fix your offensive line via the draft, via your first round pick, because you're really still taking a crapshoot with the rookies in the draft, because you don't know what they're going to be on the next level. Get a guy that you know what he is, that you know can play, and I think that's how you fix your offensive line immediately, right? So Alaric Jackson, Trey Smith for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know about this one. I would rather play Brock Hoffman at right guard than to go for a Trey Smith type. But yeah, I think that if they do anything on the offensive side of the ball in free agency, I think you're looking definitely looking at a offensive lineman. Outside of that, you draft your skill positions in the draft, because I feel like younger guys coming in from the draft at wide receiver or running back, it's easier for them to have a more immediate impact. So I think that would be the direction I go there. But yeah, with all that being said, man, the Jones family, they got a lot of stuff on their plate this offseason. They're going to have to be busy. Otherwise, they won't be able to field a football team next offseason. So one way or another, Cowboys fans are going to see a very, very interesting offseason. And I'm ready, man. I'm ready. There's about roughly a month until the free agency period begins, where they can start offering free agents contracts. I think it's March 10th this offseason, so that is going to be the D-Day, and hopefully we see the Cowboys start making some preliminary moves before then, so they can open up some salary cap space. We see them start making some preliminary moves before then we know that we're in for a fast and furious free agency period. But either way, let me know down in the comments below some of your favorite free agents you'd like to see the Dallas Cowboys go after, and what do you think their free agency period is going to look like. Let me know down in the comments below, and how them Cowboys.
Calling me, texting me, paging me, asking me, am I still them boys? Y'all usually check on me. Listen. I'm still them boys. Hey! Woo! Shut up, my boy. Hey! I'm still them boys.